The CDC had passed or put out a moratorium on evictions during this pandemic for obvious reasons. You want to keep people housed, you want to keep people safe. This is a public health issue, and keeping people in their homes is one of the best ways to prevent the spread of this virus. But it doesn't matter what the CDC wants, because apparently there are some lawmakers, particularly a Republican lawmaker who owns rental properties in Oklahoma, who's already in the process of evicting tenants because of their inability to pay their rent during this pandemic. So the Republican lawmaker I'm talking about is Markwayne. That's one name, Markwayne. So two names crammed into one name. Markwayne Mullin, that's who I'm talking about here. He's currently trying to evict tenants in Oklahoma. His 2019 financial disclosures, by the way, list investments in two Oklahoma property management firms, Mullin Properties LLC and Mullin Properties West Division LLC. Also, a disclosure lists a 50% investment in TC4 Investments LLC by Mullin's spouse. So he owns, he's vested in these rental properties. And here's what we know. The Daily Poster reports that according to the Oklahoma Secretary of State website, Markwayne Mullin is the registered agent of Mullin Properties and Christy Mullin is the registered agent of TC4 Investments. Those two rental companies have initiated eviction proceedings during the pandemic in Oklahoma state courts. Mullin Properties, for instance, filed an eviction notice on December 10th against two residents of an apartment in Moore, Oklahoma. The eviction notice says that it was filed due to the non-payment of rent, fees, or other charges. Again, there's a moratorium on that. Obviously, they've ignored it. TC4 Investments filed an eviction notice against a resident of an apartment building in Pryor, Oklahoma on June 15th, 2020. The eviction notice was also filed due to the non-payment rent, fees, and other charges. The very thing that the CDC is trying to block, you have lawmakers just completely ignoring. And in this case, Representative Markwayne Mullin doesn't care about the pandemic. He's one of the people who didn't promote wearing masks, of course. And so he doesn't care, he's gotta make his money. So let's get these eviction proceedings going.
Yeah, part of me wonders, Anna, if there will be a shift in the future. Again, I keep harping on this Robin Hood thing because of the nature of where the battle lines are drawn. And I wonder if this guy will have to pay politically for doing something this injurious to normal people. It's just about as horrible and depraved as it gets to kick somebody out of their home in the midst of a pandemic, right? It's not like there's some great economy for work and all these other things. And it's not like if they would, like, why else would they not be paying their rent besides, one of the worst economic downturns in the history of the country, right? So to not recognize that and to proceed with these evictions anyway, I wonder if I wonder if the tide has shifted enough, and as quickly as is needed for his constituents to find this as disgusting and abhorrent as you and I do. Like, this is just nakedly messed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, kicking people out, putting people on the streets in the midst of, even if you don't care about the pandemic, the prospects for, being a gainfully employed person are crap right now, right? Mm-hmm. And so how are these people supposed to fend for themselves? It's disgusting and it's sad, and I'm really hopeful that there will be consequences for these kinds of animals going forward.
So there are a few things going on right now that people should know about. First off, to answer your question about whether there will be consequences for him politically, I doubt it. And the reason why I doubt it is because this is a story that, David Sirota's publication, the Daily Poster, reported about. I'm curious, and I honestly doubt that the renters in these rental properties are fully aware of this Republican lawmaker's investment in the LLCs behind the rental properties, right? Is this something that's being reported locally so people know and they actually, through political action, hold him accountable for this? Secondly, there's an issue with the way the CDC moratorium works. And that issue is you don't automatically get protection because they've implemented a moratorium, which by the way, Biden has extended through March. You have to prove, you have to get documentation proving to your landlord that you literally cannot pay your rent because of coronavirus related financial hardship. And so I don't know why Biden didn't change that requirement, because that was a requirement that was implemented with the CDC under the Trump administration. And what Trump wanted to do was get credit for a moratorium on evictions. But of course, you read the fine print and you realize that you have to jump through hoops just to get that protection. And then the final thing is, and this is the big thing, our lawmakers should not have these investments. Sorry. You should not be invested in these kinds of properties. You shouldn't be holding individual stocks. You're supposed to be part of a governing body that makes regulatory decisions about these industries. And to be financially invested in them is an obvious conflict of interest. I don't even know why this is a discussion.
Yeah. And again, sorry, get another job, right? If you love this job of, being invested in these properties and being a landlord essentially, then you don't get to work in the United States government. Let somebody else do that job. If you love that job so much and you don't want to divest or sell your holdings, then cool. That's cool. You just don't get to work in the government, right? Like you just don't get to sort of, like you just mentioned, and like it's a clear conflict of interest, right? Like you are self-interested in having it go the complete opposite way of most of your constituents, right? Because let's face it, there are more tenants than there are landlords, right? So you are self-interested in being clearly on the side of one side. And like this idea that you would go out and vote against your own interests in the government is ridiculous. And that again, like that you would be part of this company and it would come out and you don't face any consequences. It's wild.
I know. I mean, you're supposed to be a public servant, right? But instead, you see lawmakers use this position of power to enrich themselves, and it's pretty sick. It's an opportunity. And by the way, did Mullin, maybe take advantage of government aid during the pandemic? Of course he did. So the Daily Poster also reports, by the way, and this is a guy who's consistently tried to vote against relief packages, but Mullin owns several businesses, including a plumbing company, Mullin Plumbing. 4 Mullin associated businesses received between $800,000 and 1.9 million in PPP loans, which the companies reported were used to retain a whopping 140 jobs. Look, retaining the jobs is important, but I mean, let's just do a little bit of a cost benefit analysis here. We're talking about a guy who is consistently voting against robust relief for ordinary working people. And at the same time, his personal businesses are taking hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in PPP loans. And remember, there were all sorts of small businesses that didn't end up qualifying for those loans because the government had already run out of the money that was appropriated by Congress. So these guys are the absolute worst, and I agree with you. They should be held accountable, but the system needs to change. It needs to go further than that. The system allows for them to engage in the kind of behavior that they do, and that's a huge problem.
Yeah, and it's gotten to a point, Anna, where I'm gonna be surprised when a politician is not engaged in some level of rank hypocrisy, right?
I know,
and not the other way around.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.